Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Industry Perspectives. I'm your host, Ainsley Bowden, and today I have the pleasure of speaking with Jon Clarke, one of the founders of Xbox Era. Now, Xbox Era has grown substantially over the past few years, and so I sat down with Jon to talk about his gaming history and where the love for Xbox derives from. We talk about what it's like to run a site and channel in the age of clickbait journalism. We also talk about his Kickstarter campaign and the history of Xbox book that they're producing later this year. Talk about all that and more. Let's get to it. All right, and I am here with Mr. Jon Clarke, one of the founders of Xbox Era. How you doing, mate?
I'm doing really well. I'm actually quite pleased to have been invited to come and chat to you because, and you may not know this,
Okay.
when we went to start Xbox Era,
Uh-huh.
yours was one of the sort of YouTube channels and sites we looked at, and I was like, these guys are doing something cool.
Really?
I mean, I don't envy you because you're trying to cover everything. Like we just focus on one platform and it's already stupidly busy.
Yes.
So I don't know how you pull that off, but yeah, it was like I think there were a few. There was yourselves. Obviously, we looked at the Iron Lords and how they did things. But yeah, it's kind of like it's a weird full circle for me.
That's
to kind of
awesome.
now
I did
be
not
here
know
chatting to you.
Yeah, I did not know that.
I did my research.
Yeah, that's cool, man. And part of what we'll talk about today is that because one of the things I really like, and I've talked to Cog over, Cog and I are pretty close over at Iron Lords, and we've talked about some of the same about just the, as you kind of referenced there, managing a site and what comes with that, right? Especially in today's era with, no pun intended, with all the social media and channels and everything else that goes with it. So we'll definitely get to that. But one thing I always like to do in these conversations is kind of take it back. I love to hear from people how they got into gaming, kind of what brings that passion about, because, the ongoing joke is, I'm an older gamer now. I'm in my 40s, and that's
I'm
where
coming up behind you, bro. I'm racing up behind you. I'm nearly there, and I look older, so you're winning.
So that's how Season Gaming obviously came about. Where did it start for you? What kind of initially drove that love for gaming, and how long have kind of you been into it?
Oh man, that's. I mean, there's been a couple of routes in, and different things tripped different passions. When I was younger, I used to live in Sunnyvale, San Francisco, and my father worked for IBM.
Oh,
and
okay.
He is a Brit, and they moved over there with my older brother, and I think my mother was. No, moved over there with me and my older brother, and my younger brother was on the way when they moved over there, and he was actually born over there, so he gets the cool benefit of a dual passport. But
not to interrupt you, but this is really interesting because my entire family is British. My father and mother are British, and I'm drinking tea. We joked about that before the start of the show.
Delicious tea.
But my father and mother moved to San Francisco just before I was born, and I was born in San Francisco, so I'm first generation American. So that's pretty coincidental.
This is small world stuff right now. Like this is getting a bit weird. But yeah, I didn't get the benefit of a dual passport because that would have been cool, to have that choice. My younger brother does, but then he's also socially inept, so perhaps he will never do anything of interest. He won't listen to this. It's fine. I love you, bro. But yeah, so my dad worked for IBM, so we grew up around sort of the PCs of that era, right?
Sure.
And eventually he was offered a job from another IT sort of telecommunications company here in the UK whilst he was selling them a product for IBM, and they were like, "Oh, behind the scenes, come back and work for us. We'll pay you lots of money." And he did, and we all moved back home to the UK after a couple of years. So I don't remember much of the US, but I grew up around, I had the hand-me-downs from my dad. My older brother wasn't really interested in computers, so I remember I had the was it a 486? I'm really casting my mind back now. And
That's
then the Pentium
CPU at the time, and then Pentium came out. Yep.
Then the Pentium 2, and then and I remember playing around with the Sound Blaster AWE32 and all this kind of stuff, and Rick Dangerous and Doom and all and mostly RTS games, weirdly. And I don't really like RTS anymore, but that's what I grew up on. Command and Conquer, Red Alert, and we used to be friends, like a family friend. who was a lot more well off than us, and we used to
Okay.
go around their houses on occasion at the weekend. And this arguably somewhat spoilt friend of mine had like 4 PCs, and he had it all LAN set up just in his room because he's rich.
Yeah.
And we used to do LAN, Command and Conquer, and Red Alert and stuff like that. And then my dad got me and my younger brother, an Amiga 600 plus.
Okay.
And that was the true love of all the kind of uniqueness of games like Silly Putty and the Monkey Island, Simon the Sorcerer's. I really love point and click adventure games and games that tell a narrative but also tease your brain. And then, I dotted around from the Amiga, and I think I did the PS1, and then I went to the N64, and then this is a weird route, like into console gaming. N64, had it there, everything was fine, enjoying Perfect Dark, one of the best games that I absolutely love of all time, Ocarina of Time. And then we were in an electronics boutique in 2001, me and my younger brother. There was a Halo
Yep.
pod,
Yep.
two controllers, and we're like, like that's what is this? It took us a while to work out how thumbsticks worked I don't know if you've gone back to the N64 pad.
Oof.
But
Stop.
like I used to be really good at that, and I hold it now. And I'm like, I have no idea how my brain. What do these C buttons move?
Yeah, I still remember. I tell people that if you remember, did you play Turok when it first released?
Yeah, I played Turok.
So it had a training level at the beginning of that game where it taught you how to move with the C buttons and the thumbstick, which was brand new at the time, right?
Yeah,
It's like it and Mario 64 were kind of that 3D revolution at the time. It was very strange.
It was really odd. And then going to those dual thumbsticks with Halo was bizarre. But we spent like 2 hours in EB playing that cartographer level, and mind blown. We literally got the train home. We bundled up the N64, all the games. That was it. It was time.
It was done. Yeah.
And we got Halo and an Xbox with 2 pads, and we did the co-op stuff, and we did all the fun bits and pieces. And that was the true love, in particular for Xbox. And a lot of Xbox fans will say that. Yeah, you can see the wallpaper behind me. Yep. Halo was the game that was like, this is incredible. But then since that point, I play a lot on PC, arguably more than my console now. But it's been a non-stop love of that. I think the particular thing for me with Xbox is I met a lot of really good friends, particularly playing Halo 2. So I don't know if you ever cast your mind back to the school days. You're put into a class. Here are the people that you are now associated with because this is how classes work.
Right.
And these will be your friends because that's how school works. And I got to about, 19 or 20, and I was hanging around with these people, and I was like, I don't like anyone. And I left town. I bought a house like 4 or 5 towns over, and I kind of just got on my own for a bit. And then 2004, Halo 2, playing with all these people for like a year. And a year in, I was like, should we have a LAN party? Should I just do this at my flat and risk having total strangers to my house? And thus, Sick Fests were born. Not the most popular advertising name ever for a LAN party, but had random people that I've been playing games with throughout the UK, all bundled round, and then that became like a quarterly thing. Very patient girlfriend at the time, and this friendship group has lasted that entire time up until present day, where in fact the lads are having a LAN party this weekend, and I am not there because it's half term and I have kids. But we've had marriages, deaths, divorces, births. And that's the power of video games. That's why I love particularly this platform, is because it has given me real friends that I could trust with my life, and that's through video games. That's crazy to me, and it might sound crazy to other people, but that is how cool gaming is as a medium of connecting people across this huge breadth of country with all different interests, age groups, but we all have a common bond. But because of all the differences, we've always got something to talk about. It's always a good weekend. So it's incredible.
Yeah, that is. So you said it may sound weird to some people. It won't to the people watching this, because I think that the people watching this kind of understand, and many of us have been, if not all of us, have been in similar situations. It's kind of funny you mentioned. There was a time, especially back in the Halo 2 and kind of that era through, the early 360 generation, when live really kind of took off.
Yeah.
There was an era where, I was meeting up with people that I played with online, and it was considered kind of strange. Do you know what I
Yeah.
mean? It was like, oh, you're going to meet someone you talk to online. Like, are you sure that's safe? And and it's same
I've
thing,
just
right?
watched The Tinder Swindler. It's not safe anymore, folks. There's people out there. They're going
We've
to
come
take
full
your money.
circle. We come full circle. But I'm the exact same way. I have friends that I've known for 10, 15 plus years now that I consider true friends that I've known online. And in fact, to this day, there's a few of them I still haven't even met in person.
It's crazy, isn't it?
But I talk to them all the time,
Yeah.
all the time.
And I think when you spend hours sitting in lobbies, you know, working as a team, playing together, having fun, you get closer to people
It's a
than you
bond.
perhaps normally would. Yeah,
It's a bond.
it's like a bond through fake cartoony combat or something. But I think there's something really real about it because, you know, even if you think on a very broad sense, if you meet someone at a bar, you're talking over loud music, you don't get a chance to really get to know them, but you're spending hours at a time with these people in your head. And often, because initially the anonymity is there,
Yeah.
you'll share more, you'll be more open because what do you care? They don't know who you are.
Yeah.
But through that comes real friendship. I think it's incredible.
It's a very good point. A very good point. And I think, one of the things I've discussed with others about that kind of on that same point is that, you think about the other mediums of this vein, whether it be TV, music, movies, people bond over those things. But I've always said they bond differently with gaming because
Yeah.
it's a shared experience, right? And to your point, it's not only just the shared experience of the gaming itself, but there's not a movie that you're watching for 500 hours. Do you know
Yeah.
what I mean? We played Halos or many other games
Oh,
that people
God.
play for thousands and thousands of hours, and it's when you think about playing with the same people over that breadth of time, you know those people more intimately than you do people you might have known in person for years.
Yep.
And it just, it's a very unique thing, and it's one of those things. Fantastic point. I agree with you that it's one of those things that's unique to gaming and just makes me love it all the more.
I mean, seeing as we're pretty deep, here's a super personal story, right?
Go for
When
it.
I was younger, I feel old now, so this is probably nearly 11 or 12 years ago.
Okay.
I was married, and
Mhm.
then it didn't go well,
Okay.
and I was left with very little apart from the bricks in which I lived. And I was left in a situation where I lost everything. I was obviously an emotional wreck,
Sure.
and I, uh, I didn't know if I could afford to own my own house anymore. Like, did I have to sell? I was in a real hard spot.
Uh-huh.
And one of my friends that I met while gaming just went, I'll move in with you. That was 12 years ago. He was best man at my wedding, my second wedding. This one's going fine, I hope. The Xbox stuff's starting to annoy her a little bit as I spend more and more time doing it as Xbox Era grows. But that is the power of gaming right there. Like, and that group of friends were all at my wedding, and
That's awesome.
they were all met through Halo, and that's pretty cool. And in his own best man speech, he was like, "None of us in this room would be here if you hadn't said let's have a LAN party," and that kind of was like, oh, God. It's crazy, but it's true.
No, that's fantastic, man. I love when people share stories like that because I think in some way many of us have, stories in similar veins, maybe not the same circumstances, but something that kind of hits us straight to the heart with the people we've met through this medium, which is it's awesome. That's why we're here.
Video games are cool.
Yeah.
I'll try and lift us back up. I think we got into like a little. We were
No,
getting a
no,
bit
it's good,
philosophical and deep, you know.
I
Let's
love
make a
that.
fart joke. I don't know.
But I mean, just to further that point, right? We wouldn't be having this conversation if it weren't for games.
That's true.
Yeah, it's just the nature of it. So
I've met some incredible people in the last 3 years. Like I've never met Nick,
okay.
the co-host of the Xbox Hero podcast. I've never met him in real life. Right. Never had actually played a game with him before we got chatting about wanting to do something that we ended up doing.
Yeah.
That's the power of video games and shared ideas.
So
it's crazy.
That's perfect kind of segue then, because that's kind of where I was going to go next. So, love for gaming, obviously love for Xbox, and Xbox Era. First of all, congratulations, because Xbox Era has really grown, and it's doing
scary.
tremendously well, and I can imagine, yeah, and it holds a certain respect, I think, in the community, not just from Xbox players or people. Do you know what I mean? It's not looked at as this kind of segregated group. It's looked at as a place for people who enjoy Xbox, but not,
Yeah, well,
in a negative
that's
way.
hopefully the aim. That's where we land. It's definitely been challenging and difficult, and there's been mistakes made and
Sure.
lessons learned. I love it. I would argue I love it a little too much. I've often said over the last sort of 6 to 8 months, like we've really felt the difference in engagement. And I don't want to sound like some sort of marketing schmuck. So when I say engagement, I mean in terms of lots of people are coming to us with codes and, can we have your opinion on this? And can you make this video? And can you talk to us about this? And we want another montage part 2. And it's like, oh God, the tipping point is coming between, and to be clear, all of us have real jobs. I'm doing some air quotes for those of you listening on audio, real jobs that we love and care about, but, I think the reality is that the passion for this is obvious and paramount, right? No one is getting paid at Xbox Era. Everything that we get from our Patreon, our supporters, all gets funded back into what we are doing. So it pays for all the forum servers and the back end stuff, and enables us to go out and do more of this really cool stuff that we do. And it's this tipping point is slowly coming, like this is more a full-time job where, but arguably there's not a lot of money in video game journalism or content creation unless you've got lots and lots and lots. So it's real difficult to keep this pace up, keep the quality level where we want it to be, and not burn ourselves out. And that is one thing that I lost last year. But by the end of December, I was a dead man. And I took 3 weeks off from doing anything on the site whatsoever. Once the Kickstarter was finished, I was like, I'm out.
Yeah. So it's, a lot of what you just said resonates with me because, we're not as big as Era. I'm not claiming that, but we set up similarly, right? We are a site that from the very beginning, when I started it, it was set up as a blog originally. That was just a free place to go, no ads, to talk about games. And as it's grown over the past few years and grown quite substantially, and now there's, however many contributors we're at now, like 14 for the site, and do different articles in the channel and social media space and podcasts. And we haven't changed our core tenets, which is no ads, no monetization, right? We're not looking to make money per se. But to your point, to continue growth and to compete in this hugely competitive space where there's a million content creators and podcasts and everything else today, you not only have to bring good content, but you that requires time and effort and passion and everything else. And it's a lot. It's a lot. And everything you said there, just, I remember talking to some of my close buddies who I talk to every day in the gaming space. And, same thing, late December, I had a few weeks off from my career job. And I just said, guys, I'm dead. I am burnout. I just need to step away and just, it gets too much. So I love seeing the success for you guys, and I love to see what you're doing, but I don't envy the choices that have to be made as these things get to where they are, because choices will have to be made, right? And it's not going to be easy.
Yeah, and we've made choices, and we kind of, for a long time our YouTube wasn't monetized, even though we could, but then we found out, well, YouTube will turn ads on even if we choose not to, so we may as well. The Patreon was more, we wanted to do that mostly because there are lots of hidden costs. Initially when I set everything up, the server and everything else, I had to learn how to build these kind of hosted servers and then upload all of the stuff to them. And that was like, Pre-Drag, our art guy, he's like, whenever I do something, he's very knowledgeable and he's very helpful, and he's normally like, we've got a problem, we normally brainstorm it. And he's in Kuwait, right? I've never met him, right? It's crazy how all these people came together. And he was just like, every time, hackerman.gif, like every time I fix something. And it is pure passion. And I have to pause for a moment, because this isn't me, solely driving this. I think a lot of the guys, not wanting to toot my own horn, will often come to me from a leadership perspective. Like I sit, when we talk about core tenets about what we want to be. Okay, well, we don't want to do clickbait. Right. And when we talk about growth, in content creation, it's really easy right now to fan the console war fanboy flames and get clicks. It's so easy. We could do it all the time. We don't, because we don't feel it's of any real value. And I won't name content creators that have gone that route, but now they're seeing that the constant flip-flopping from one outrage that the algorithm demands to the next means that people kind of just don't really feel that their voice is sincere anymore. So they just stop watching their content, even though they might have thousands and thousands of more subscribers than we do. But they're not unique, they're not original, they're not actually saying what they genuinely think. They're saying what they need to dramatize to get clicks. And I see that more and more, and I hate it fervently with a passion. It makes me really angry to see, and it's not to knock. I accompany that with the phrase of respect the hustle, right? There is a balancing act, I feel, but it does bug me when people play up to this caricature and then other people actually buy into it.
Yeah, me too.
It drives me nuts.
I'm happy you brought that up, because it actually is one of the things I was going to talk to you about, because I got to be quite frank with you, John. We wouldn't be having this conversation if you and Xbox Era were like that, because I can't deal with it. And you're right. There's more and more people doing it, and they get this kind of short burn, is what I call it, of clicks and subs and stuff, but it's going nowhere. And it's maddening to see when it kind of does work in that short term, because we put in the work and the effort and try to create good quality content that doesn't do that, and sometimes it doesn't land. It just doesn't. And I talked to a few other content creators who daily, who are in the similar boat, and it's just like, it's so frustrating to see.
The Game On Daily folks, are you talking about?
In what capacity?
Sorry, when you said daily, I thought you were talking about the Game On Daily guys. Like
no. I was saying I talk to content creators daily.
Oh, okay. Sorry, I hear daily and I immediately think of Gaz going the sauce down the mic.
Yeah. Well, I'll leave that alone. But
love you guys.
But yeah, no, I completely agree with you. And it's a shame, right? Because in parallel, as this is going on, and they're kind of taking advantage of the flames and everything you mentioned, right? We have the state of this industry right now, which is arguably greater than it's ever been, with more diversity, with more games, with more developers, and all these fantastic stories to be told and kind of celebrated. And yet this is the best they can come up with. It's disappointing.
It's depressing is what it is. And, it's not necessarily just to blame on them. Like I say, I also always attach this adage of respect the hustle, especially for folks that are doing this as their full-time job, right? I get it. Your primary goal is to drive engagement and get clicks. And you see that across big media websites that still to this day, IGN, no offense, love you IGN, kind of, but you still use the console war rhetoric of versus in your headlines. Like, why? Why do we need to do that? Because human nature determines that there must be a winner and a loser. And the algorithms that our content is promoted by dictate that there must be something negative or something positive. And I find that there is no room for middle ground. There's no room for reasoned, educating takes on subjects and topics, right? So you've either got to be super positive, and that will get you clicks because one side, we're winning because this guy agrees with us, or you're super negative, and then you pull the people that agree with your negative take, and then you get the arguments from the people that are completely on your extreme. There's no middle ground at all. And I pause for a minute to give props to all of the incredible folks that are behind me and make Xbox Era what it is, and I could list them off, and I would, because I've got them constantly in a Discord on this screen. But like when I think about it, I'm just going to pull names out of a hat. Like particularly, you mentioned Abe earlier on, My Bad Mother. He doesn't produce an article every week, right? And it's a good thing he doesn't, because when he does produce an article, and I or he work together on creating a video for it, it's a 15 to 20 minute genuine deep dive into a topic. You can look across all of his stuff. It's all really, really good. And what I love, there's nothing worse than 300 views, and it's old news now, so no one's going to click on it. That kills me when you spent 3 hours building the video and Abe spent
there many times
writing it. Exactly. But what I love is every now and then you'll get a comment of, holy hell, this is incredible video. How have you guys not got more? Or how have you not got more engagement? It's like, because people are people, and I can't blame people for playing the system the way it's been designed. I can't. don't want to play that game. I want to stand by our core tenets of what we produce and how we produce it till the day I die.
Yeah,
that's how it's going to be.
It's awesome. I am in complete agreement with you, and anyone who watches this and knows me well from our channel knows that I preach. I joke that I preach about it too much because, as you said, it's frustrating. It can be frustrating, and sometimes I will just go on a rant about those creators that just
it's nice.
But
I feel great right now. It's very cathartic to get this off of my chest.
I love it.
I often keep myself on an even keel, but I mean, yesterday, I don't want to make it too topical as a conversation, but the whole conversation around Activision Blizzard Call of Duty exclusivity, right? Yesterday, Microsoft dropped this thing, and our own forum, which is meant to be a place of reasonable discourse, ladies and gentlemen. And I'm not calling out anyone by name, but there are takes in there that I am sorry if you disagree with me, and I've posted as such. But I was very annoyed because I suddenly saw this thread go up. It was going crazy. We were getting reports left, right, and centre, and it was console wars. And you can't come to me and say, "Oh, PlayStation sucks." We want a forum where we can talk about Xbox. No, if you want an echo chamber, that's not what this is. Because we'll call out Xbox when they make stupid decisions, but you also can't overreact or try and pull out list wars and then claim that it's not console wars. It is. You want to win one over the other guy. So the people making that kind of point of, haha, Call of Duty isn't on PlayStation more, that is console wars.
Yep.
I get you might be a fan of Xbox and you really want to see them succeed, but you're still following that path. Like, you need to think a little bit big picture. If Call of Duty comes out on both, it's the same. Except Microsoft owns it, and they get all the revenue to fund more games for your platform of choice. It's not a big deal, right? And yes, you can say that the wording is weird and fuggy, and yes, of course it is, because they don't own Activision Blizzard yet and can't make any definitive statements. Right. They're giving assurances so that they can actually complete the deal. So just like here's my. I'm just going to catch this in one big net, right? If you're freaking out about this. And you're saying, oh, when you're talking about Activision Blizzard, if you've been freaking out about this, right, here's how to think about it. Call of Duty will remain multi-platform, and all live service games will likely remain multi-platform and supported going forwards. Everything else, anything new, might be exclusive. Until you know for definite, don't worry about it. That's it. It's the end. It's the end. I've rant over. I'm okay. Finish my tea.
Hey, man.
I need a mic to drop.
If this is cathartic, then by all means, I love it. Like I said, these conversations are great because they're down to earth, and that's what this is all about. So don't apologize in any stretch of the imagination.
Well, I'll only apologize if I come across as an insufferable know-it-all. But other than that, it's fine.
No, but it is funny talking with you because very very similar mindset on how we approach things. It was funny when you mentioned Abe, and shout out to Abe, One Bad Mother. Great content, as you said. He doesn't create it every week, but when he does, it's meaningful. And he's one of the few, and sadly, there's not a whole lot where when they post, "Here's my new article," I stop what I'm doing and I read it because it's just that good. And the kind of, again, not to pat myself on the back by any stretch of the imagination, but some of the comments you mentioned we get as well all the time at Season Gaming. How do you guys not have more subs? How do you not have more attention? And to your point, it's just that there's a huge subsection of the community that has been kind of trained, might not be the best word, but kind of trained, as you said, to kind of find a winner and a loser, and there has to be drama, and there has to be this and that, and we just don't do that. That's not us.
Yeah. It's not a team sport. You can play games on lots of different things, and
they're all awesome in their own way.
Yeah, like, just have fun with it. It is meant to be fun,
Yes.
Like,
if video games are the thing stressing you out, you need to reevaluate your life, is what I always say. Like, everything else in your life should be more important than video.
Does that include me mashing my pad to death at losing at Halo on the regular? Like,
no, I think
is that acceptable? Okay, all right, I'm fine.
So, kind of along those lines with era and the growth, right, in this era. Not, again, no pun intended. It's hard to keep using that word.
Got it in there.
Of Xbox. It's again arguably the best time for Xbox ever in their history. I mean, they had some, in my opinion, absolutely incredible years with the 360 And
Yeah.
I argue all the time that the 360 may be one of the best, if not the best consoles of all time.
I loved my
It,
360.
in what it did for the industry. People kind of forget some of the things it really did for the gaming industry. But we're at a time now where Xbox is kind of exploding, right? I mean, they're on the scene, they're doing all this in the obviously with the investments in the gaming space, but also things like inclusion and diversity and accessibility, and they're pushing, the capability to play your games where you want. As long as you just log into Xbox, you can go to PC, you can go to cloud, and they're kind of reinventing, or I should say, they're leading the charge in the evolution of what we've known for 4 decades as the console gaming industry. And
Yeah.
I think that it's kind of the perfect timing. Was that a kind of a big influence for you and the team when you thought now's the right time to do this type of site?
Yes, and I wish I'd had the position, I guess, in life, in real life, to have done it maybe 2 years earlier.
Yeah.
But it is what it is. But yeah, I mean, there were lots of things that culminated to us, Nick and I having the initial conversation, and initially it was just a podcast, right?
Yeah.
And for want of a better phrase, look how many Xbox podcasts there are now compared to 3 years ago.
Yes.
Like there's a reason. And look how many gaming mainstream, I hate saying mainstream media because I feel like some sort of Donald Trump fan. Look at how much gaming mainstream media have suddenly gone, oh no, we're going to have to pay attention to Xbox again.
Yeah.
And then, because what really bugs me, and I'm rewinding the clock, so let's go back to, when did the Xbox One X come out? 2017.
2017. Yep.
You could sense then, right? 2017, 2018, there was this, okay, think that, Phil said it, I think back in like 2016 in an interview, he was like, I've got to fix the hardware.
Yep.
Well, I've got to fix our vision, I've got to fix our hardware, and then I've got to fix the games, right? And we're in phase 3 of that journey right now. But when they made that hardware change, and they really did kind of show again that they were focusing on why we all probably fell in love with Xbox in the first place, which was really powerful box, really great games, really great pad, really great services, not TV.
Mm-hmm.
And we've all been there. 2013 was horrific. As if you were a big fan of Xbox, it was not a fun gen. When we think back to whether they would have closed, yeah, it was a real possibility that would have just shut up shop. But now we're in a world 3 years later where they've made Microsoft's Xbox and gaming as a whole now with Microsoft Gaming, that's the recent change with Activision Blizzard now. Is it going to be under that banner?
Yep.
It's a core pillar. It's up there with Azure, Office, and Windows. In revenue, it's going to make as much money as Windows. Microsoft care about this now. And the game has changed, and that makes a lot of people very uncomfortable because for the longest period of time, the Xbox was an underfunded underdog within a multi-trillion-dollar organization. Now, and I get why people are scared, because now it's got their attention, it's got the shareholders' attention. They want returns, and that's why Game Pass exists to a certain degree, and because apparently Phil Spencer believed in it enough that it could take off. Mm-hmm. But when I think back to 3 years ago, what really bugged me was I was really into this platform, and I was reading this diatribe from people that should know better, should have more information. I'm on a forum, and I know more about the studios and what they're working on and who are they and what are they doing and what the rumored projects are than these podcasts that claim to have millions of viewers and are the world's number one Xbox podcast. I'm like, what is going on? We can do better than this. So I reached out and I just posted publicly on resetera.com. Don't judge me. And Nick was running the Xbox Era Discord, and Xbox Era was obviously a play on the words Resetera, Reset Era, if that's what you call it. And yeah, someone pinged him and said, hey, this weird looking English bloke's asking about doing a podcast in the forum. We reached out, we connected on Discord, he invited me in, we had a chat. Initially there was 4 of us. We had a chap called Figments and another guy called Funknown, and we did our first episode, and then I screwed up all the recording and it was just lost. And we had to do it all again, which was really awkward, but it was kind of good because by that point we already knew each other because we'd spent like 3 hours doing kind of like that first recording to get to know each other a bit. Sure. But over the course of that journey, we realized that the podcast wasn't the whole story for us. Like, yes, we wanted to talk about it because we knew more, we felt we knew more, but we also realized that we've got a voice and we want to share it. And then we were really lucky to find all of these amazing people, like my whole team. They are so cool. I'm looking at all their names. So I will list them off. Maybe I'll do it at the end as a shout out. But
Sure.
we were just lucky to find these people that understood and had that passion and that drive because they cared, but also wanted to build something special, something unique. They're much like what you've been doing with Season Gaming, right? Yeah, I believe in this enough, and somehow I've managed to persuade people to believe in it too.
All right.
And now we're here. Like we've had one guy join in the last year, in a kind of way where he had an Instagram account, and he reached out to me. He was like, I've reached my ceiling. Like I'm one guy on my own. Where we're talking about having to juggle all these different hats of social media and writing. I'm one guy on my own. I can't do any more because I've hit this ceiling. I can't manage more than this. So what if I join you guys and I'll rename my Insta and I'll help boost this? And at first I was really against it because I hadn't earned that. But he was really adamant. So I was like, you know what? It's still yours. I've got no keys to this kingdom. You can change the name back anytime you want. But he's done that, and that's driven in all these new people, and it's just gone completely nuts. I don't know where the end is. I do know we've got some really cool stuff coming up. Like we've got our episode 100 coming up of our podcast now in March, and we're doing something very, 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 very cool for that.
Nice.
I look forward to revealing that on episode 99. I'm not going to tell anyone before that.
Okay, fair enough.
There's been plenty of some good guesses out there, but it's just I love it, and you can probably hear it when I talk about it. Is like I'm really proud of what everybody on that team has built and how much passion and dedication they brought to it. We've made some terrible mistakes along the way, and some of them were my mistakes. Like if you recall the Bungie article, which I find hilarious now that they actually did sell. That was
Give me context.
Oh man, this was the worst night of. This was like trial by fire. Oh, you want to be in content creation, huh? Better watch what you say. So our website, not wanting to again, toot our own horn too much, but it's a pretty cool website. If you've ever been to xboxera.com, go check it out. But Nick found these legal changes to a bunch of companies that had been acquired by Microsoft, where this new person comes in as part of the merger and acquisition, and this new legal state appears, and I'm paraphrasing somewhat, but basically a change occurs and this person's appointed, and for every single acquisition we looked at that had happened, this change had occurred. And there were all these rumors at this time going around Bungie, and Microsoft were in talks with them and yada, 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 but nothing came to fruition, and they denied them, and everyone in the industry was like, oh, that's not what we're hearing. And then we found, when we looked at Bungie's public legal records, they had the same change. And all we did, right, and if this was a forum post, no one would have batted an eyelid. But this is where we had to think differently. This was xboxera.com, a publication, supposedly, saying in a headline, those Bungie rumors, we think they're real, here's why. And we listed out what we'd found. We said, we're not lawyers, we don't know, but we find it an odd coincidence that on every one of these acquisitions, this thing to do with acquisitions appears, and Bungie now have the same one. So maybe there were talks. And we were basing it off of existing rumors.
Right.
The reaction, however, forced COO Pete Parsons to come out and make a public denial that it was happening.
I remember that denial. I did not know you caused it.
It was our fault. Rather specifically, it was my fault. And I will, because Nick will call me out if I don't say it. Nick told me maybe we shouldn't publish it. And I was like, nah, man, this is a scoop, yeah, let's go. And it was the worst. I woke up, I went to bed and I woke up to my phone was on fire. Like hate messages and angry people. And we had one, I won't name them, one very, very well-known video game analyst tell publicly to his millions of followers that Xbox Era is a trash website and no journalist should follow them.
Wow.
And that's on my head. That was my call to publish that, and I felt awful. And, I even tried to communicate with this guy, and he just blocked me. I'm just like, okay. He did delete the tweet, though, because I think maybe he realised he'd gone a step too far. Because if you actually took what we'd written at face value, we didn't make any claims. We just said, here's what we found. Isn't that curious? Right? Yeah. We just asked the question. And Hogue, Richard Hogue, you've probably seen or heard of him now. He
He's
does
part
his
of our
gaming
panel.
laws. Well, there you go. He's a very
He
nice
just joined
chap.
our podcast last week, actually, as our 4th panel member.
Yeah, he's on my list to get in and chat with because he seems like a very cool
He's a good dude.
right?
Yeah.
And indeed, he was so kind. Like, he reached out and I said, he commented and I reached out to him private. I was like, could you help break this down? He said, yeah, I've done a video on it. And he was so kind in his videos. Like, I can understand how they arrived here and people should probably stop going crazy at them. And it was just like, thanks, dude. And, you know, that he didn't owe us anything. We didn't know him from Adam. He didn't know us, but he was just a good human being right at that point when we needed a good human being. So that was that kind of that first lesson in, you're not a forum poster anymore. Words have weight. And since that point, we put in a lot of stringent stuff. You know, we have layers of editors that will, if a news article is going to go live, you know, there's a lot of trust in the team at the moment. So we don't have to follow this too strictly, but typically more than one person will have a look at something before it gets pushed to the site for quality, for accuracy, and so on, because we don't want to ever make a mistake like that again.
That's wild. That's wild. I do remember the statement from Pete Parsons, but I had no idea.
That was my fault.
Awesome. Wow.
And now they're sold. So they were in talks, you lying sons of... Anyway.
That's great. That's great.
Dear.
I don't know. Yeah, that's a great... See, another great story to share with the audience. So that's perfect. That's perfect. You know, so one of the things you kind of already circled around it, and I know we joked about it, is I like talking to people like yourself about is really around the complexity of running a site in today's environment. And, you know, just the complexities of having to kind of be in so many places. You know what I mean? It's like you can have a site, but do you have proper social media setup? And you can have a social media setup, but do you have a channel? And how does your channel differentiate from your site? And, you know, are you on the aggregate sites as well? And are you on OpenCritic and Metacritic? And it's just, when I look back, you know, you're of the same kind of generation as me, where you think about the EGMs, the Game Pros, the next generations of yesteryear. You know, Next Generation, by the way, my favorite magazine ever, gaming mag.
Good choice.
Yeah,
good choice.
Fantastic. But you think about, you know, the difference in generations of publishing something months in advance and having basically very little critical feedback you receive directly, to this moment to moment have to be on top of it at all seconds. And if you, especially as you well know, right, capitalizing on SEO for your channel or your site is a nightmare.
Yes, it is.
It's a nightmare. And it's just, you know, I don't even know the question I'm asking you here. I guess just open thoughts as to complexities about it and how maddening it can be at some time.
I've got plenty of them, right? SEO is one of those horrible things that is always in the back of your mind, right? And you'll have these random articles that you think are nothing.
Yep.
But because you've somehow tripped upon the magical SEO formula for this one particular keyword, you're suddenly like, why am I getting all these hits for this random piece of Sea of Thieves news for an update from 2018? Oh, it's because I tripped this one switch where I mentioned one word, you know. And you see other websites that really play the SEO game. Like, if I'm not calling you out, Jez and team at Windows Central, but when you see them publish an article of will Forza Horizon 5 be on PlayStation, they're not answering that because they think that their audience doesn't know. They're answering that because there are people Google searching, is Forza Horizon 5 going to be on PlayStation? And they know by filling that gap, they're the one that will get clicked on and get the ad revenue. God, that's depressing. Isn't that depressing? Isn't that a horrible world that we're living in, that we have to make false, bogus pages to just fulfill a tick box to get a few more bucks? Oh, it drives me nuts. I'm going to end up going on a rant again. This is terrible. You shouldn't have asked me this question. But when we talk about burnout, right? I mean, I run, and thankfully that you know, I think now for at least the last 18 months, for initially I was doing all the sort of social media kind of things, but we've got a bunch of guys like Justin and Nick has access, and Sukia has access, and a bunch of the guys have access to, you know, delete tweets or post things or check things, but a lot of it for us is very automated, and there's a lot of trust for a team, you know. Trying to do this remotely across many different countries and many different time zones, there are not enough tools there to really make that really useful. Like you've got stuff like TweetDeck for Twitter and SEO. We've got some guides within our sort of back end of Xbox Era that when we post, we get like little hints on readability and where are you? Little smiley faces for how good you are ticking an SEO box. I would say that we honestly probably don't worry about it as much as we should, because it was kind of like a call of, like if people want the news, like I'm not gonna be one of those YouTube channels that has like 1,000 keywords at the very bottom of their description of where you can find them and stuff, just to try and, because at some point either the algorithm will go away or we'll win, or we'll build a community behind us that will force ourselves into the algorithm. That's my hope, right? Is that enough people that through our genuine approach will pick up with us and follow us, through hell or high water. But wearing all of those different hats and being online all the time, and it's 11 o'clock at night, but what's just happened? Quick, someone get on the news and post it. And in those areas, because we're not staff at a company officially that are getting paid and have weekends off or have shift work, we're often a little bit ahead. And I'm sure you get that as well. If something crazy goes down on a Saturday night, UK time, there's no UK website going to be covering that until Sunday morning or Monday morning.
Right.
And often, because we're all over the world and one of us might be free, someone can do something.
Yeah.
But the fact that we have to be that on all the time, and then you get to gaming events like E3s and game messes and summer fests, or whatever the hell they're all called nowadays. Thank you, COVID. Like, we're going to be live streaming it, but then we'll have to have a team of 4 or 5 people finding the trailers and getting them online and writing the articles and getting out and then running the live blog and then managing the forum and moderating the conversation and making sure people aren't being idiots over here and that guy's being an arsehole on Twitter, let's quickly get rid of it. It's crazy. And then when I said at the beginning of the show that you cover all platforms, man, mad respect. Like I'm this like frenzied over just covering Microsoft and Xbox. I can't imagine a world where I'm having to cover the Switch and the PlayStation and the PC and VR. No, thank you. I'm out.
We have to be very selective. Yeah.
I just think that I'm glad that a lot of that is more visible. I want to give a mad shout out to any community manager or social media manager, because it's an unsung hero of these kinds of things. And they are worth their weight in gold if you can get a good one.
You're not
like genuinely
100%. So let me ask you kind of a funny question about Xbox. Is as you kind of look across their space right now and everything we've talked about, from their advancements in getting studios ramped up, their hardware, their infrastructure, and everything, and all the positive things they're doing. What's the kind of one thing, or is there a thing that you look at Xbox and say, why aren't you doing this, or why don't you have this? What would you like to see out of them that, despite all these kind of good things they're doing, what are they missing in your opinion?
I think there's a couple of things I would pick up on. One is I think Xbox Live Gold is a real weird leftover dinosaur that needs to be put out of its misery now at this point. And I get it's a revenue generator, right? And I get that the other guy is doing it. But when Microsoft decided to say, we don't care where you play, we don't care how you play, when we play, everybody wins.
Right.
And I think that's yes, it's a marketing message, but it's a valuable message, right? Because it's true. You can't then on one hand say, are you on PC? No worries. Peace out. Go have access to all of our services and party chat and the store and Game Pass. No probs. But yeah, don't worry. Yeah, free to play. Yeah, no worries. But on Xbox, it's like, is it not free to play? You can't play multiplayer then without this gold account thing. And I get that there's probably a tipping point that they're trying to drive towards, but it sticks out like a sore thumb, and it doesn't make sense in this world where everybody's equal and everybody is the same and we don't care where you play. Well, then you should be ditching this Xbox Live Gold thing. And I think it's going to happen. Like, genuinely, I think there's probably a number point that they have to hit with Game Pass perhaps to get there. But it's really odd. Like, it's got to be purely money down at this point. But I think that when they do announce that, we're going to get rid of Xbox Live Gold now, multiplayer is free on Xbox forever, there'll be a big hooray, because for people that genuinely would maybe dip their toe in but don't want to, are on the breadline and can't justify that cost, now they can.
Yeah.
They can just have fun with their friends.
Yeah, that's
So
fair.
that's one. And the other one is still games, unfortunately. And that's not to disparage all of the fantastic games that have come out. I think 2021 was, frankly, one of the best years Xbox have had in a very long time. Huge amount of diversity in genres and titles. And the quality was there where it needed to be, because, look what happens when you give the studios more time. Halo Infinite, there's still some things that need to be tweaks.
Yeah, there are.
And I've worked with those guys. They love Halo as much as Halo fans love Halo, right? So I'm sure that they are aware of this. But it feels like the right Microsoft is now, they've got a vision and they're actually sticking to it and they're driving the quality. And I think for all of the disparaging around how Game Pass might drive games that are filled with microtransactions or FOMO or, whatever you want to say, I also think that it gives us genuine opportunity to see creators take more risk, because you're not beholden now to sell 10 million copies to justify the existence of your game, because, 25 million people can play it as part of their subscription service.
Yeah.
So you're covered now. So go take a risk. Go do something different. Go show me what the next Gears of War is or the next Fortnite's going to be. And I genuinely think that the studio that's going to do it this year is going to be a Microsoft-owned one, because Microsoft are all in on gaming now. I think they've made that quite evident.
Yeah.
So, most exciting generation I have lived through yet. Fascinating what's going on.
Yeah, it really is. It's a type of kind of seismic shift in the industry that we haven't seen maybe ever. But there were a lot of kind of long-standing methodologies that stood around for decades, and those are just the doors are kind of being blown off all of them. So it's interesting to see. And like we said earlier, it makes it such a fantastic time to cover games and talk about games. Why would you want to talk about nonsense day in and day out? It doesn't make any sense to me.
I can't imagine being angry all the time. Like, here's an outrage, and I'm going to be outraged about it. Like, well, yeah, come on, go play something and chill out
play
a
something
bit.
else. Yeah, I mean that's what games are for. But anyway, so talking about kind of where Xbox has gone and been and the things they've done over the last 20 years, you guys have created a book. And
Yeah.
you did well, I'll let you tell the story, but long story short, you ran a Kickstarter, very successful Kickstarter, by the way. Congratulations.
Thank you.
And it looks like a piece of really kind of unique content, and I know you got a lot of people from within the Xbox community to collaborate on it, and it just looked really, really interesting. So why don't you kind of give the backstory?
Yeah, so I'll start this off by saying this is all Abe's fault, and you should all blame him.
Perfect. I'm gonna edit that phrase. I'm gonna put into a GIF for future use, by the way.
Yeah, you just post it whenever. This is all Abe's fault, and you should all blame him. It works for a variety of situations, actually.
I love it.
Yeah, so Abe had this idea maybe 18, must be nearly 2 years ago. Maybe not that far back, but my brain's fried. But he had this idea about, hey guys, 20th anniversary is coming up next year. Maybe we should do something that celebrates the book. And me, Captain King of stupidly big ideas, was like, we should do all of the consoles right up till now, a full history, the encyclopedia of Xbox. And everyone was like, yeah, do you want to just lower those expectations somewhat, John? And I'm very glad that I was talked down from that ridiculously ambitious pitch, because yeah, we ended up landing on, okay, the original Xbox, it was the console that led me here, led a lot of Xbox fans here, right? Yeah. Let's celebrate that specifically. And we reached out and we had some conversations and we had this idea, and then it kind of it went away. Like, we were like, yeah, it's a long way off. We're really busy right now trying to grow the site and everything. And then out of nowhere, Pre-Drag, our art guy, absolute legend, he just was like, hey guys, what do you think? And he'd started building concepts and pages of this novel. And we were like, oh my God, this looks incredible. Okay, now we have to do it. I think he knew that, and he's worked in print before, so he's made books previously, awesome. And he's a graphic and designer by trade. So that was the kind of like, oh, okay, we're really going to do this. So then it became, where are we going to do this? And foolishly, I took this burden upon myself. So I went and found some local publishing houses, and we got everything together from a content perspective outside of what we would call feature written pieces. So the final version will have, deep dives into the communities, the backers, the people that backed it, voted most like favorite games, and there'll probably be things like Halo 2 and Panzer Dragoon and Splinter Cell and Ninja Gaiden and stuff like that. And then so he'd done this timeline of games, and then we'd worked out, well, we're going to want to talk about how it started, us, the history of Xbox, how it got made. Let's see if we can get one of the creators in. And we were very lucky to have a really great response from Seamus Blackley, who you've probably seen in the Power On documentary. Very entertaining, down-to-earth fellow.
Awesome.
I'm really looking forward to getting the interview with him, which should be happening in the next couple of weeks for the book.
Cool.
So he's going to be doing a kind of like his own words kind of piece in there. And then we also thought, well, look, the community is what actually makes Xbox special. And I'm sure you would probably agree with that. Out of all of the platform communities, there's something special about the Xbox community. And I also think it's probably because we're lucky enough that the Xbox team are actually out there interacting back with us and talking to us and communicating back and forth, So we had all of these kind of community people that we'd met through Xbox Era, and we were like, hey, would you be interested in? And we just received this great response back from people like Tom Warren and Jeff Grubb, and Rand Alfor and Colt Eastwood and all of these kind of big names in the Xbox community. Come and talk to us and share your memories so that the community can actually celebrate together via a book. So we did all of this, and we made a prototype, which is sitting just on this shelf over here. I could go get it, but you've seen it. You've seen videos of it on YouTube.
Yeah.
And so we got the prototype together, and we spoke to the publishing house, and we said, how much is it going to cost us? And it cost us quite a lot. So thank you, patrons, because they enabled this to exist. So we spent a bunch of money on the prototype, and then clock was ticking, like the anniversary was coming soon. And we got back the video that we eventually launched the Kickstarter with the night before the anniversary of the original Xbox.
Wow.
It was down to the wire, and I had to get on camera and do this interview thing and hold up the book, and we had all these slow-mo shots of it. It was really cool.
Yeah.
And I'd spent so long in the run-up, like there was a good 5 weeks of just running around, getting everything ready, and then editing the video, and then getting it up and ready on YouTube. And I did it as a premiere to gee everyone up. And we were teasing it like mad. We were really proud of it. And it came time to the premiere, and I'm not normally a nervous guy at this point. Like for my living, I talk to people for a job, right? So I'm pretty confident in front of a camera, and fun fact, when I went and did the video interview thing for our Kickstarter video, the guy was like, a lot of people have trouble with the, what's it called? The teleprompter. A lot of people have trouble with it. If you need more takes, just say stop. Did it in one take. And I did 3 one takes, and he still used just the first one because it was the most normal. But yeah, so the night before I queued it all up, and I watched the premiere go out after we teased it. And I've told this story before, but I was such a mess at this point, and I had all these hopes and dreams because all of our hearts went into actually making this a reality.
Right. And
we were terrified that, who reads books nowadays? Like, I don't want to disparage people that do read books. I read books. I'm with you. But I also am just aware of what the human race is like. And I was like, what if no one likes this? What if everyone just laughs at it and says it's stupid? And I watched the premiere, and I was watching the reactions in, and I was crying, genuine manly tears, obviously. But I was crying my eyes out watching this reaction back because people just went absolutely crazy. Like, oh, wow, it looks incredible. Da, 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 da. And I was like, I was just a mess because it was like this big relief of like, oh, thank God we landed it. We did it. Yeah. And then came the hard work of 30 days of watching a really slow loading bar fill in the hopes that we'd actually get to make it. And thankfully, 400 odd people thought it was cool. And now we get to actually make the damn thing, which was an incredible journey. And we even got some new contributors from around the Xbox community and new journalists that were like, this is amazing. Can I help? And even some folks from Xbox, I can't share who.
Sure.
even backs the project
That's
themselves privately,
sure.
which is, I mean, the fact that someone that helped build this thing, or runs the team, or is part of the team, is sitting there, and I know that at some point in the next 6 months they're going to have it in hand, and we made this. That's
Yeah,
crazy cool, crazy cool.
that's amazing. Yeah, I mean that's something that you'll kind of hang your hat on for a very long time, right? That's one of those
Yeah.
movies that you'll never forget.
I wrote a book. I mean, I didn't write it. I mean, it's written by literally the entire team is going to have a hand in it in some form. So, but it's cool. It's very cool, and it was a privilege to be able to do something like that for a community that has frankly given me so much.
Yeah,
So it feels good to kind of celebrate it and give something physical and tangible back in some small way, at least.
that's amazing. Yeah, it's fantastic, man. When I saw it, funny enough, one of the guys who writes for Season Gaming is an author and writing a series of kind of fantasy novels right
Oh
now. And
wow, that's
yeah,
awesome.
yeah, he's amazing, and I'm really excited for him for this to come out. And he's amazing editor and writer, and he I've talked to him a lot about what it takes to go through what he's creating, and it's just it's extensive. And
Yeah.
so when I saw you guys were doing this, I'm thinking, okay, you got all those pictures, all those articles, you got collaboration, you got printing and publishing and funding, like that. That's an undertaking. So the fact that you guys accomplished it, and that book is being made, and everything that goes into it, that's just awesome. So big congrats.
Yeah, to me, it's the biggest thing. As much of all the stress, and that's arguably why I took a lot of December out. Once that actually went through, I was like, yeah, I'm just like I just crashed. But now I'm at the other end of it, and the hard work has got to begin. We've got a lot to do, and hey, the website's still got to be run, reviews have still got to be written,
Sure.
videos have still got to be made, podcasts have still got to be recorded. So it's like, oh, I've just tripled that workload along with juggling, my real life job, which is also crazy at the moment. And it's this weight of immense responsibility. Right, 400 people have given up their hard-earned money to realize our dream. I cannot let them down, and
Yeah.
that is the real kind of like that weighs very, very heavily on me. And I dropped an update out today. We actually reached out to all of our community contributors, so all of our internet famous people, to do all their bits. So that's happening, and they've got their deadline now, and fingers crossed we'll be more or less on our timeline.
Gotcha.
Ask me in 3 months, see if I'm completely devoid of life.
We'll do a round two here, revisit once that's out.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Be a pleasure.
Cool. So let me ask you this then. So what's next? We've joked a lot throughout this conversation around the growth of Era and everything that goes into it, everything we've kind of already said. So as you look at that, and as we started the conversation of it's gotten to the point of melting pot, right? Like melting point, I mean. As you look to the next year or 2 years or in the future, let me ask this. What would you like to see if you had your druthers, as they say? What would you like to see out of Xbox Era over the next few years?
Man, that's I mean, the real lifelong dream would be I'd love to be able to do this for a living. I'd love to be able to dedicate my working hours to doing this to the best of my ability rather than trying to do it every spare moment I've got. That's the dream. The reality is, much like most of us, I've got mortgages and kids and, responsibilities outside of that passion. But I treat it as a business. That is a dream that I've had for a very, very long time. People that have known me for a long time. I've always liked writing. I've always loved video games, and this was the perfect combination of the two. I can't say that I would be very, very surprised if we weren't still around in like 3 or 4 years. I would be very, very surprised if we weren't a lot bigger in 3 or 4 years. I would love to get to a point where the people that have helped build this are part of the company in a very real way, and that they are earning a wage and that we are respected amongst our peer group, and I'm not saying that we're not now, but like we're genuinely a respected publication at a very general level.
Yeah.
And also that we truly can become the best home for the Xbox community to come and chat about their preferred platform. And that's not to say that other people that love other platforms aren't welcome. Of course they are. It's all about video games at the end of the day. But it would just be, that would be a real moment for me to kind of look back. And I don't like to wish away the years, but I'm very curious to be able to look back in 2 or 3 years' time and think, man, what a journey. Because it has happened for others. And I truly believe that it can happen for us. In the short term, we've got something coming that's just sort of in the final phases of what I would call loosely testing, without giving the game away too much. It's going to be coming, that I think is going to surprise a few folks as to how deep we've gone. And again, it's another investment that our patrons and our supporters have enabled us to pursue as a value add to our community. I think that's going to raise a few eyebrows later on this year. And, you know, we've done our own application for Metacritic again. Let's see if we land with those guys. I hope, I think one of the coolest moments of last year was seeing the Halo Infinite marketing team come up and it had our logo with our score.
Yeah.
That was super cool. Like, come on, 3 years ago, never would have thought that would happen.
Right.
Yeah, and there's some cool stuff coming for episode 100 of the podcast. We have no plans of going anywhere, and we have all the ambition in the world to become incredible. And I think we're already pretty good. So just drumming my own trumpet there, but you know.
That's great, man. That is great. As you said, it feels like a dream when you're in this position to think that this could be what you do for work. And it's almost crazy to think of how much time and effort and passion goes into it when it's not our work. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, how many people can say they really, truly love their job?
Yeah.
Like, you know, I like my job, my real job. I love the people I work with, but do I get up every morning and think, yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm not to say, you know, there's always people that say, don't ever do what you love for a living because you'll kill your love. There are people that say that, and they may be right, and maybe this is a terrible mistake, and I'll just burn myself out of it completely. But I just, you know, I've loved it for so long. I just don't see that happening now at this point. Like, I'm in it for the long haul, and I know the team are as well. So,
yeah, it's awesome, man. It's awesome. Well, my friend, this has been a pleasure, honestly.
The pleasure is mine.
Appreciate you coming on. Love to see what you guys are doing over there. I will make sure to make a GIF of blaming everything on Abe because we need that in our lives.
Please do. And hey, you know, massive thank you for having me on. You know, like as I said at the beginning, you know, you guys were one of the teams we initially looked at when we were like, how do we go about building a website? Let's look at what other people are doing and see what we can come up with. So, you know, thank you for the inspiration, and the, you know, it's a privilege to kind of come full circle now and chat to you about realizing the same dream, right? Because you're doing the same thing out there, and thankfully doing it in the right way, in my opinion, which is not fanboying the hell out of it. Mad props.
Back at you. I think, yes, that's a conversation, like I said, that I have every single day. So, yeah. But no, man, thanks again. For people who are kind of new, obviously all your information will be down below, but anything you want to shout out before we close out?
Yeah, I mean, hey, if you want to check us out and, you know, you have been living under a rock and haven't heard of us yet, feel free to check out xboxera.com. All of our links to stuff are there. We've got a great YouTube channel. We've got a great podcast. We're available on Spotify and all the other podcast apps. I know Spotify is not particularly popular at the moment. All the other ones that might be popular still. But yeah, you know, we're really grateful for folks that do come in and tune in and support us, because you enable teams like Season Gaming, like Xbox Era, like Iron Lords to be able to actually deliver content that you should care about, not just out to get money out of you. And that's what matters. That's what's important. So thank you.
Yeah, big agree. So with that was Industry Perspectives with Jon Clarke, one of the founding members of Xbox Era. Thanks, as always, to everyone tuning in. You know where to find us at Season Gaming. And thank you to all of our patrons who allow us to do such things. And as John eloquently put it over the past hour, allow us to do some of these things back for the community in the way that we believe they should be done for gaming. So until
Preach.
next